Okay, the time is 9:01 a.m. I'm going to call this B County Commissioners Court Notice of Special Called Meeting to order. Today is Monday, June 22nd, 2020. We are located at B County Courthouse, Commissioners Courtroom, number 110, 105 West Corpus Christi Street, Beeville, Texas, 78102. If everybody would please stand. We don't have anybody provide a prayer this morning, I don't believe, so I'll lead us in a short prayer. Dear Lord, please watch over B County during these interesting and unique times. Please help our commissioners and myself to reach decisions that are in the best interest of the entire community with which we represent. In God's name we pray, amen. You all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Yes, eventually, yeah. Large font.
You remove that desk now, you don't get to read it off.
I know. On agenda item number 4, recognizing visitors, I see that we have several individuals that are here today to speak. Thank y'all for being here today. Are there any other visitors that are present that aren't going to be speaking that would like to identify themselves? Any that I've missed? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. Agenda item number 5, Commissioners Court opening remarks. Commissioner Sells, sorry, your turn this round.
Yeah, also, talking to some citizens from Blueberry Hill, they brought to my attention that what's happening sometimes is when EMS is called out there, they, oh, there you are, sir. I apologize. You used to over there. Anyhow, they indicated to me that sometimes EMS is getting lost and they're having a hard, difficulty time finding the location of where the call originated from. So I spoke to Mr. Alemán from Angel Care, and he did indicate to me that there is some issues out in the county. Not only out in the county, he also indicated that some in the city limits, he also has difficulty finding sometimes when they call him. GPS, Google isn't always reliable. So what I want to really emphasize to the public is if you don't have your number signs on your residence, please, it's not mandated by 911, by the way, because I call 911. Post them, because it's a matter of life and death sometimes. If these guys are trying to hunt you down and they can't find your residence because you just failed to put a number up, that's on you, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that people will listen, and those that don't have them, to put them up. There's areas that there's clusters of mailboxes, and the mailboxes obviously do have the address, but you got about 6 houses. Which one is it? You know what I'm saying? So here again, it's not mandated. It's just something that's highly recommended, and I hope that the people will look and see if they have their numbers posted. Patricia Edwards from 911 indicated to me that 911 at the Sheriff's Department has reflective numbers that they sell for $10. So if you want something that reflects during the night, call Ms. Edwards and she'll set you up for $10, and you'll have peace of mind. Okay, that's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll keep my remarks low today, short, but those that are trying to contact some of the court members after Friday on email, our emails are down. We have a new multi-factor ID that we have to do. Some of us are not tuned into that yet, so it has totally messed up our computers. So if you try to email us after Friday sometime and you're not getting a reply, it's not that we're shunning you, we can't get into our computers. I know Commissioner Farias is in the same shape I'm in, so we've got to have some help. Some of us are more dinosaurs than others, and we need a little more help. The other thing, is Mr. Todd Taylor here, or a representative of Todd Taylor? Mr. Taylor lives in the north end of the county and sent me an email that I was able to get Friday before it went down. And he wanted me to read it into the record, but it's quite lengthy, and I appreciate his situation. He lives in Richmond, Texas. He owns a little over 1,000 acres in the north end of the county in the wind farm area. And his email basically says that he's in favor of the wind farms, and that's what I wanted to relate to the visitors, that Mr. Taylor is in favor of wind farms. And I will pass on. Commissioner Farias?
This past week, Road and Bridge completed the culvert to divert some water on Papaya Street. We've had trouble there, so they looked at it, they completed the job. Thank you, Ray, appreciate it very much. They've also, Mr. Landers from Ali Taylor's office has moved the 3 connexes that were in Road and Bridge's yard. They put them at the expo, so that freed up some room over there. Met with Ms. Warnick to work on the salary committee, and we're about ready to get the whole committee together now. So, and then I've got worked on 3 bids for the fence that we approved about a month or 2 ago. So we have 3 bids completed now. We have them this morning to put the fence around the tower at the expo to keep it from anybody from going in there. And also attended the OAC meeting at the sheriff's office to see the completion of the punch list, get it down. I believe the number's down below 200 on the punch list. That's pretty good. That's good.
Well, the first thing I want to cover, yesterday afternoon, and it's kind of personal, but my son and granddaughter were going by the the Skidmore Canyon Collection Center, spotted 2 4 and 5 foot rattlesnakes across the road into the center. So I want you to warn your people there that they're out, they're fun, they're getting out to move around. So that was spotted yesterday. I'm not going to tell you what they did to one of them because it might be slightly illegal, but anyway, it was my first warning. Met with individuals. I met with individuals, a couple of individuals. One, Miss Campbell's here today. On 631, her issue. Well, she has 2 issues. One is covered today in a meeting in our agenda item. I wanted to let everybody know we're going to met with Ray Gonzalez on the drainage situation. We have formulated a couple of plans that we're going to work through. I'm fixing to set up a meeting with TxDOT for 2 items. One is the Losey-Matoka Road. The county has been graciously put up the sign. However, the state's a little slow in putting up that sign to monument that road there, so I'll be getting with them. Also want to meet with them also on the drainage situation down in Papaloti on 181. Driving down through there, I saw a few little high spots. So want to get with them, see what they can do to help us out with that. Yeah, pretty much. The computer, I didn't have the issue. Of course, I have a 5-year-old grandson that probably fixed it for me. But anyway, I did get all my emails, sent some emails out this morning. So, but other than that, just general business. Noticed the roads were sprayed around there, and I think the mowers are working in that direction. So, again, Ray, thanks for your help. Thanks for meeting with the bridge funders. We met with him last week. They have formulated a plan where Mr. Gonzalez is going to send the road agreement from your part of the county to the contractors. The contractors will meet with Ray. They will formulate a plan, seeing what needs to be done about adding drainage culverts and things like that. We had an extensive, probably a 2-hour meeting, 2.5-hour meeting with them. Very willing to work with us, willing to work considerably with us. They have some issues when they did in Refugio County. They did some safety measures above and beyond what everybody else does. So, and they'll be instituting them here. So very cooperative. We will meet with them, finalize all that. Then I will set up a town hall meeting at the Papaloti Fire Department for the local residents there on 631 and 628 and everybody around. So I will put that in the paper when it's time. I do apologize, mine's a little lengthier than Commissioner DeWitt, so I'll put that on the calendar. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I did. Thank you, Commissioner,
Thank you
for your comments. I have a few. First of all, and I know I'm going to leave somebody off the list. It's not intentional, but I do want to highlight that, you know, part of the county's funding is through grants, and grants can be tied to something called the CGIS number. It has to deal with the number of open criminal matters that are pending within the county, and it applies to district court matters, county court matters. It applies to investigations and arrests that are made by PCSO, BPD, and Texas Department of Public Safety. And over the course of the last several months, Ana Trevino from our county clerk's office, Pat Henning from our district attorney's office, as well as the staff of the district attorney, the staff of the county attorney, the B County Sheriff's Office staff, Beeville Police Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, and many other individuals have worked to get this number to an acceptable level so that grant funding will continue uninterrupted. I got an email this morning from Ana Trevino, who received it from the CJIS folks on high. The number that we have to hit, as I'm sure most of the commissioners are aware of, is 90% closure over the preceding 5 years. We're at 96%. So I just want to commend everybody that I named for getting that done. That's a lot of pressure off of everybody's back. So thank you.
There's one person that gets credit that doesn't ask for it. Commissioner Haggard has stayed on that just like crazy.
I didn't know.
That was his main focus.
We were really hurting, and together with the ones that you just named, and Mike Willow also. I want to add Mike Willow also. Mike has taken it away from me and signed up watching it. So hats off to everyone who's got this thing above 90%, because it was a tough battle to get there.
That's great.
We were in bad shape.
Yeah, we were fixing to lose some funding.
Right.
We were going to lose some funding before it was.
So that's good.
96 is a great.
Oh, yeah.
I probably should have closed with that. Yeah, I'm still learning.
No, you're
So the second part is not quite so positive. I just wanted to let the public know, let everybody in attendance know today, commissioners as well. Later on this afternoon, Mr. Willow, myself, and Mr. Dominguez are going to be issuing a new COVID-19 periodic update. Over the course of the last 5 days, we have continued to accumulate additional community cases. Last week, after repeated urging on the part of B County, the Texas Department of State Health Services has adjusted and modified how they are reporting cases. Because B County is one of relatively few counties in the state of Texas that has Texas Department of Criminal Justice facilities within its county, the manner in which TDCJ is tracking, testing, and reporting COVID-19 cases differs from the methodology utilized by the Texas Department of State Health Services. B County does not have its own health department. So Region 11 of Texas Department of State Health Services fills that role. So Region 11 is our de facto health department. Region 11 is the department that conducts the contact tracing. They make contact with individuals who have tested positive after that information is forwarded to them from the entity or the individual that conducted the testing, i.e. doctors or clinics. They're also the department that monitors individuals that have unfortunately contracted COVID-19 and walk them through the process through daily telephonic calls and more stringent review and monitoring if necessary. Most people are pretty compliant. Once somebody gets COVID-19, they treat it very seriously. They don't want to give it to their loved ones, to their friends, to strangers. And so Department of State Health Services doesn't have too big of a problem with compliance, but they're the entity that's doing all of that. Last week, as well, as we started to test more at our BCOCO drive-through testing facility, DSHS changed how they're reporting case numbers to us. Whereas before we were somewhere between 35 and 37 cases, now we have separated, or DSHS has separated the inmate prison cases that they know are inmate prison cases, to the extent that they know they are inmate prison cases, as reported by TDCJ, remove those from our community number, right? So our active community case count is going to decrease by over half, which is good. But there are additional cases. Because there are additional cases, and we'll release the press releases here and provide a periodic update this afternoon, once we have an opportunity to actually draft it, to explain and communicate how the dishes number have changed so dramatically. But it should be noted, once again, it's not the end of the world. There's no reason to panic, but still, you should encourage yourself and those that you love to follow CDC guidelines. It's my personal recommendation that everybody follow CDC guidelines to protect yourself and those that you love, and those that you're around. And that includes mask wearing, washing your hands, maintaining social distancing, avoiding large groups, and otherwise doing the things that you would normally do to try to protect yourself during any other period of rampant cold or flu season, which is kind of what this is. So, expect a periodic update later on today. Don't panic, but redouble your efforts and help us keep COVID from penetrating into D County any more than it already has. Thank you. That's all I have. We're moving on to agenda item number 6, public comment. We have an agenda item on the agenda today. It's agenda item number 12. Agenda item number 12 deals in general with the Pawnee ISD Chapter 313 application. If you are here to provide a public comment this morning on agenda item number 12, you will be afforded that opportunity at the time that agenda item number 12 is called. At this time, agenda item number 6, public comment. I would ask if there's anybody present who would like to make public comment with respect to anything other than agenda item number 12. Do we have anybody on the list? Oh, Ms. Campbell. Okay. Mrs. Campbell, would you like to speak this morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please come forward then. And while you're walking up, when you get up, come on up. You can use the podium, or you can stand there if you
I
want.
prefer to use the podium.
And when you do, when you first start speaking, if you would, please tell us who you are, so that Ms. Edmondson can get that information down for the record.
My name is Sandra Campbell, and I'm a 36-year resident in Papalote, and my address is 253 County Road 631. Before I begin, I want to thank the representatives of our county for the fine work they do for the citizens of D County. I really appreciate this opportunity to discuss my concerns, which is longstanding. As a 36-year resident, I have observed many times that our community floods. It's not every day and a little half-inch sprinkle, but when we have 8 to 10 inches of rain, the terrain of the land slopes towards the creek, and many of our county roads serve as dams and block the water, preventing the water from flowing from pastures and through culverts that are designed to catch all this flood water. I spoke in 2003 to Mr. Montes. He was our Roads and Bridge Administrative Director at the time. In 2006, after a tremendous flood, which actually almost flooded my house on County Road 631 and all my pasture land, I spoke to Mr. Gonzalez, and then I also spoke to him in 18 and recently, a few weeks ago, early in the month. It didn't dawn on me that I could speak to the Commissioner's Court, so I called Mr. Haggard, and he was very gracious and listened to my concerns. And I wanted to emphasize my concerns by coming today and speaking. And what prompted my desire to speak was the fact that a neighbor told me that our County Road 631 was going to be raised and possibly widened, which I believe would have impacted the drainage in the area. And this raising was to support the heavy equipment, 18-wheelers, pulling equipment for the wind farm that was going to be built further back, not even in Papalote proper, but County Road 631 has been earmarked as a proposal, route to the wind farm. And Mr. Haggard addressed, how he would notify all the residents. That was my concern, because I wanted everybody to know directly from the county, not just from a neighbor. My second concern that I put on my agenda form, along with, aerial maps, picture of my house, the Papalote Flats, that I believe I've studied sufficiently that, and I've gotten out when there's flooding, and I've driven around and looked at how the water flows. And, just recently, and I think that, the raising of the road could impact the poor drainage. I believe it is poor drainage, or shall I say insufficient drainage, because when it backs the water up on landowners' property, then it's not sufficiently draining the water. A few weeks ago on June 10th, I saw a man in the culvert near my driveway, and I chose to drive down there because I thought there was a problem. And he said he was Rod Forsyth with Westwood engineering firm, and he was reviewing the condition of the road, the existing culverts, to see if it was supportive of the wind farm project. That kind of convinced me that what my neighbor told me was true. The road is going to be prepared for this additional traffic and heavy equipment, and I believe it would make the drainage worse. County Road 622 is a major issue to me. It's close to the intersection of County Road 631 and Highway 181. Not only does it, but 4 other county roads flood water to some culverts that were installed years ago to drain the water and flow it across a privately owned pasture. These county roads are County Road 630, 629, my road 631, and County Road 628. Actually, the water from 628 flows back to the culvert. 3 county roads come from the west side of the culverts, and they all converge, and the water flows. It does do its job. It flows directly through the culverts, across the privately owned pasture, and then into the man's pond. Then it builds up, and it flows over a spillway in a ditch, and then it finally gets into Highway 181 ditches. So it's really a zigzag route, and I'm sure it's been studied, and the engineers have approved it, because that's a low spot right there at the end of 622. And in addition to all of this routing of the water from all these 4 or 5 different county roads to the culverts, County Road 622 seems to provide the majority of the flood water, and the end of that road is built up with a lot of debris, heavy brush, and I would like to have it cleaned out. I would like to at least recommend that it be cleaned out, because it would help the flow of the water, especially off of property owners' pastures behind me. And so clearing it out and perhaps adding larger culverts, which Mr. Gonzalez told me was in the works, and that would be very helpful. I fully agree with that. Now, the White Pasture Waterway. Previously, this land was owned by the Cornett family, and in the early 60s, B County Roads and Bridges I guess they put in the culverts at that point, but Mr. Cornett allowed the county to flow the water across his pastures in a waterway to the pond and across into the Highway 181 ditches. Now, why did this happen? Mr. Cornett's cousin, Mr. John Chris, was an employee of B County Roads and Bridges. He's no longer alive, but his wife, Mrs. John Chris, told me that in the 60s, B County was not allowed to put culverts to the highway because of the railroad. Well, the railroad has since been taken up, and I'd like to see that possibility of adding culverts and routing the water on 630, 622, and And that's a low spot. I don't know if it could go uphill to the highway, but that's a possibility. I think Mr. Haggard mentioned that he's looking into that. But because this waterway is owned by private family and the current owner is Mr. Robert White Estate, I'd like to know who maintains that waterway, because my neighbor next to me, Mr. Jackson Knox, brought to my attention that the weed thatch and brush is starting to build up around that pond, and that again, if continued, will obstruct the flow of the water when it gets so brushy. So I'd like to know how and who maintains that waterway on private property. The land and homes on County 631 is a concern. My house is one of them. The road itself is built higher than the land on the north side. On the south side, on which Mr. White's property, it's a little bit lower. But all this water converges on the north side from land north of me, probably as far back as Baker Road. And it comes down, and when we have these heavy floods, the water in the ditches actually crest over into the pastures and into my yard, and in 2006, it almost went into my house. And I cannot afford to have the water go into my house if the road is built up for the wind farm and possibly widened. I think that would narrow the ditches, and the flow of the water in the ditches would go over into the pastures and into my yard also, and possibly extend into my home. Now, why have I taken so long to speak? Well, I just didn't know what to do. But after studying it and hearing about the wind farm project and getting my courage up, I've really wanted to address this issue with people who can do something about it. Now, my third concern was a solution. I was advised by Candy Estrada in Judge Morrell's office that grant money is available and can be used for drainage projects. So I would appreciate the county using some of the grant money to resolve the poor drainage that currently exists before the wind farm project makes it even worse. And I would appreciate a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak during public comment? Okay. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, please do. Come on up and announce, identify yourself to us once you get up to the podium.
My name is Arthur Ulinger. I'm a neighbor of Mrs. Campbell. I live on 622. And in reference to this brush at the end of 622 that is adjacent to her property, that indeed has not been flowing water through there because all the brush has been there. So it's a dedicated road. It apparently has never been put in service, but it is on the flat. And that in and of itself floods my property every time we have any kind of rains right there. In front of the fire department, there in Pasture, which is adjacent to that road, when they built that particular fire department, they stopped up, they closed up the drainage culverts that were in front of it and decided between the church and the other side of it. So consequently, that stopped the flow, which is on the east side of that road. So this flowing problem that she's referencing here is one of long-standing and has been enhanced due to the construction of the fire department. So I would like for y'all to indeed look into what she's asking you to do so and support what she said.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close agenda item number 6. Unless there's an objection by Commissioners Court, I will move to suspend the rules and move agenda item 12, from its location in our agenda to the next agenda item. Is there any objection?
None.
Hearing none, I call agenda item number 12, consideration and possible action on request from community members Austin Brown and Joe Carter to present to Texas Comptroller Glenn Hagar for review and consideration an analysis prepared by Mr. Carter regarding, quote, economic impact evaluation for Chapter 313 school value limitation for property described in application Pawnee ISD number 1462, Helena Wind, LLC, period, close quote.
Judge, Commissioners, if I could have the floor for just a second, please.
You may.
This item, this is entirely in precinct 2. It's my understanding that this application has already been accepted by the comptroller's office and has been approved to advance to the next step. So a lot of this is as my colleague says, mute. I'm reminded by what my daddy told me when I was about 8 years old. Y'all bear with me here a minute. I was very inquisitive as a youngster, and I used to ask, how many cattle do we have? How much do you make a month? And he used to say, you know, son, that comes under the head of my business. Now, this is Pawnee Independent School District's business, not this Commissioner's Court's business. We shouldn't be getting into their business. Mr. Carter has a presentation on the 313 permit. I think that presentation is going to go forward, but we would ask Mr. Carter to restrict that and not denigrate Pawnee. They have done what they feel is best for their school district, their trustees have. We would not be telling Skidmore School District what to do, nor Pawnee, and that is not the intent here at all. And I remember what my daddy told me, and this is their business, not ours. And based upon that, this is a little out of the ordinary, but I would make a motion that this court take no action on this item, even though it hasn't been presented yet.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. As Commissioner DeWitt just discussed, I think it is a good idea, and I would like to give Mr. Carter an opportunity to make his presentation to this court. I would ask that you keep it between 7 and 9 minutes. And I'll give anybody else who's interested in making a further presentation to the court after Mr. Carter is done, the same amount of time, if you so wish, Mr. Carter.
Pardon me. The reason this is on the agenda was that I prepared the analysis looking at the code. And at the same time, Mr. Brown had written to the comptroller, and the person there in charge of this said that if there was, they were seeking an analysis, and it would be best if it was brought through the Commissioner's Court. This was brought to the Commissioner's Court by Mr. Brown. He's not able to be here today. I here based upon the code, and if you want me to explain that conclusion, that I will, but I didn't come here to litigate that question. But I am prepared. It's very brief.
Please proceed.
Okay, if you would look at your packet 200, page 200, it gets down to the meat of this. And for the Comptroller's Office to issue a certificate, it must pass both 313.026C1 and C2. And C1 says, is it reasonably likely, is the question, which also kind of means, is it quite probable that the tax that is given away will ever be equaled by the tax that would be collected in 25 years. And that does not appear to be reasonably likely. In the discussion of this, Mr. Barnett asked me, and I said, well, it's quite, I hadn't spoken about his about his project at all. But I said, well, you know, if you would be concerned about that, it should be shown that some project somewhere, some wind turbine project somewhere had ever paid as much tax or was ever valued in its 11th year when it was going to start paying tax again, as much as you project that it was yours would be valued. And when you look through the ones that are in business now for 10 years, you find that rather than having a 11th year value of roughly 53%, as is projected, of the original cost, that they have a value between 9 and 25%. So it's very hard. The wind turbine company, the Helena Wind, provided no evidence, no comparable evidence that their project would be worth for taxable value in the future what they projected to be. So that's one of the main reasons why it's quite questionable that it failed the test of 313.026 C1. The second test, you'll notice between C1 and C2 there is the word and, not or. The second test is that the limitation on appraised value, the comptroller must determine the limitation on appraised value is a determining factor. In other words, would it not be built in this state if it did not get the certificate for the 313 limitation? And there is no evidence that that is a determining factor. The company has not received or failed to receive a value limitation or a statement, as they call it, at the county level, and they proceeded right on. For a fact, they haven't slowed down. And unless there's some assurance that they have that they would also harvest this particular economic incentive, then there's no reason for the comptroller to approve it. He cannot determine that it is a determining factor. They make no statement under oath that says they will not do this. I've looked at other applications. In particular, one that just came out, Tesla Motors near Austin is proposing to build plants there. They're asking for a 312 or a reinvestment zone on exactly the tract that they have under lease. It's all surveyed and so on. And when they come down to asking the question, answering the question of is this a determining factor, they say it is a determining factor, and we will provide the documents because this is competitively bid, could possibly be located somewhere else. And we will provide those under separate cover, and they provide the documentation that shows the economics of it. The wind turbine company did not do that. They just make these broad statements and say, you know, economic incentives are a very important project, and we might not build it if we don't get this one. But what they don't tell you is that the 313 valuation limitation is a small fraction of the economic incentives that they have from production tax credits. So it's really not that material. It's just a icing on the cake, if you will. It's quite clear that the application does not pass both those tests, or at least does not pass one of them. The third, notwithstanding, if you go down to 313.026F, right at the bottom, it says, notwithstanding sections C and D, the comptroller makes a qualitative determination the other considerations associated with the project result in net positive benefit. And net positive benefits would be things like lots of jobs, things that don't divide the community, things that don't depredate the property values in the area, and so on. And there's no evidence of those qualitative items. For a fact, to the contrary, the valuation limitation that they're asking for would give them a benefit of about $1 million a year for 10 years. And it's not clear whether that's even material, but they're going to provide 3 jobs in the district But that $1 million a year, which would be somewhere in state school funding, would actually pay 20 teachers, 20 classroom teachers, 20 counselors, or school nurses, or one more classification there, with not starting, but with 11 years experience. So it's kind of a poor trade to say that their particular application would have any qualitative benefits that would bring it over the hump of failing another test. The Tesla project is promises to provide many more jobs. And in this analysis, I actually found a little cheese factory up in the Panhandle that provides 354 jobs, you know. I mean, that's a qualitative thing, you know. Obviously, they provide jobs, and probably school-age children go to school. But those are kind of the explanation of my analysis, and I wasn't intended to litigate that here. It's just that this should be forwarded to the comptrollers. They should be able to stand on their own merits, and we should not have to endure some of the trespass that the wind tower company brought to the community, particularly the idea of the slander of the title of about 150,000 acres in the county. They came here and asked this court to do what's actually an inverse condemnation by rezoning 170,000 acres. Now, what that comes from the custom of foreign companies who operate in countries and trade stock in countries where there is no constitutional protections, or not the same constitutional protections to the rights of the landowners. I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. Appreciate your time. Judge, I might add to his program that the court did not grant that reinvestment zone at all. Correct. Zero.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Does anybody wish to speak? Ms. Hartman?
Thank you, first of all, for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Pawnee Independent School District. And I want to start by telling you, if I am not able to stay through the whole proceedings today, it's not as a sign of disrespect. I had a professional commitment that I'm not able to change prior to seeing this put on the agenda. So I want to begin by thanking both Judge Morrell and Commissioner DeWitt for returning my phone call this weekend. Can't even remember, it went so fast, it was Friday or Saturday, but I do know that it was after hours, and I appreciate your commitment to the county.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that Michelle Hartman, Superintendent of Pawnee Independent School District.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sorry, yes, I am. Michelle Hartman, Superintendent of Pawnee Independent School District. I've been superintendent there for 7 years. And I started by speaking to the phone conversation because in reflecting on that, what I realized is I have failed the county, I failed the school district by not doing a better job of telling you all the great things that the Pawnee Independent School District has done and has accomplished. And I want to make sure I go on record for saying that, because moving forward, I will make a much more concentrated effort to each commissioner here to understand not only how our relationship with you as a county official is important, but also the surrounding school districts. And at no better time than recently, because there's some turnover in those areas, and so we are committed to that. So I again, thank you, and again, apologize if I have to leave. And I want to again thank you for making the decision that you have made and not taking any action. I did send an email, but the most important parts are this, that our board is a very competent, longstanding board. I believe it's over 50 years of elected official experience in school representation in our 3 officers alone. So it is by far one of the strongest points of our school district is the commitment of the board to do thorough research in the decision making that they did. And once the Commissioner's Court decided not to proceed with granting a 312, it really was a learning opportunity, which is something that, school districts should be lifelong learners. We were able to research and get a better understanding of why you made that decision. Our finance mechanisms or framework is very different, And so, as I've stated in my email to each one of you, we respect that decision and would not ever speak out against or in favor. It took us a moment, and I can attest that each board member did their research to look at that. I think the most important thing is that in our opinion, that decision should lie in the hands of our trustees. As I have said to them on more than one occasion, whatever decision they make, I certainly am going to respect, as well as my leadership team. I mentioned myself, but we have a business manager that graduated from UT Austin, who also takes it upon himself his professional commitment to the taxpayers. And so if you do not know, Pawnee continues to have the lowest taxpayer rate in the county, and we take that very seriously. We work extremely devoted and committed to the efficiency of both the taxpayers, but I would say, speaking for our board, our first commitment are to the children, and not only the children of Pawnee, but the children of B County, as well as some of the surrounding counties. I know that Mr. Carter made reference to the evidence of qualitative benefit. I would say that I would disagree respectfully that part of our gauge of relative benefit or qualitative benefit is exactly how many lives we touch in our endeavor of education. And currently we service more students in Beeville and employ more employees at our Beeville campus than we do actually in Pawnee. And that is something that we've never quite capitalized on, or I guess I should say advertised, because I'm very proud of our district's commitment to just doing the right thing. They do not use it as a political mechanism to boast or to use it as their own selling point to get reelected. They 100% take the commitment to education and efficiency of their taxpayers, as well as, I would say, if you've ever seen our back to district commitment from our community, they also agree with that philosophy. So again, we respect the process that you have before you. And again, I just want to go on the record to say that the state comptroller has already approved the application after doing an extensive economic income analysis and the report of that information. Other than that, or what comes directly from the district via the Board of Trustees, should be the only information considered. And I appreciate you recognizing that today. So in your packet, I just provided you a copy of the email. Very familiar with the challenges of rural emails, and so I thought that probably was the case, that you might not have gotten that. So that's all that is a copy, hard copy for your review and consideration. We invite, as we have Mr. Carter and Mr. Brown, to attend our board meetings, as well as I have an open door policy, and that is very much encouraged by the Board of Trustees to come visit with me. I've met with Mr. Carter and Mr. Brown on more than one occasion, as well as a number of emails. So I do hope that they feel like their opinion has been listened, but so too have all of the landowners who have chosen to lease, as well as the local taxpayers who have visited with me as well. So again, thank you. I appreciate your respect.
Thank you, Ms. Hartman, for your time today. Is there anybody else that wishes to comment on agenda item number 12? Hearing none, we will go ahead and close out agenda item number 12. If there is anybody here that would like to leave at this time, who's here to watch agenda item number 12, you're more than welcome to leave. On our way to beat. You'll need a break? Okay, the court will stand in recess for 5 minutes. The time is 9:50. We'll reconvene at 9:55 a.m. Thank you all very much. Let's go ahead and get back on with the agenda. The time is 10:04 a.m. We are reconvening. When we left off, we had closed agenda item number 12, which had been moved in between agenda items 6 and 7. So now I'm calling agenda item number 7. The following items are of an administrative nature. Commissioners Court has been furnished documentation on each item, and all such items may be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a commissioner or county judge.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion in multiple seconds. Any further discussion? April, do we have anything to add?
Well, I do have my financials attached to your agenda. I mean, if you want to go to page 5 and just kind of look at the revenues,
Sure.
if you want to. We're,
How's it look?
we have 17.58% still to receive, and some of that is our TIDC contract, which is a little behind, and we've only received a quarter. So, and we're already, of course, into the second quarter. So that has to do with, you know, with a little bit of why we still have some remaining. But everything else looks
There's
in
nothing else
order.
that sticks out, or?
We are down sales tax, 80,000 from last year, which, I mean, hopefully it doesn't go too much further down, but we'll just see. We just have to monitor it. Our expenditures are above the percentage of the year that we're in, so that's on track also. Do you have any additional questions? Everything looks good?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Deliberate and consider action on the following items. Agenda item number 8, project expenditure approval, PEA for Brinkley Sergeant Wigington Architect March 2020 invoice for the Sheriff's Office, New Jail.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you. Agenda item number 9, PEA for Smith Seckman Reed Inc., May 2020 invoice for the Sheriff's Office, New Jail.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 10, PEA for Turner Construction Pay Application number 28 for the Sheriff's Office, New Jail.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Agenda item number 11, discussion regarding ribbon cutting and open house for the Sheriff's Office new B County Law Enforcement Center. This is really, really promising. Sheriff, do you have something you'd like to tell us about that'll get us excited?
Well, we're excited and high hopes. Right now, we're scheduled. You have to always start with right now. We're scheduled to be inspected. Actually, I just got a call from the jail inspectors at the jail, but it's not, it's the old jail. The 7th and 8th of July, we're expecting, the jail commission to come down and inspect the jail. And hopefully they're gonna approve everything and we'll start moving in shortly after that. Within a couple of weeks, but on July the 9th at 10 a.m., we're gonna have a ribbon cutting and basically an open house. And right now, we're at a point where we have to plan it, full speed ahead if it's gonna happen at all, because we have to either get in and do it, or once we get inmates in, we won't be able to really give a tour. But, with the way that this COVID-19 is going, who knows what's gonna happen? And so, we'll have it, open to the public. We want to give tours throughout the Sheriff's Office and the new jail. We'll either have a really awesome ribbon cutting and lots of cake, or we'll have a Facebook Live ribbon cutting and we'll eat cake. But I would like to encourage, assuming that the virus allows everything to continue, the COVID, I would like to invite everybody to come down. We're going to have some nice ceremonies and a dedication. We'll have some guest speakers there. And the ribbon cutting. We're in the process right now of getting invitations out, so hopefully we'll cover everyone there, but either way, it's open to the public, so we'd like to get everybody. It's a beautiful jail. We've been working on it. We always have little issues that come up, but all in all, I think B County is gonna be really proud of the facility. It's awesome. It's just got we talked about punch lists, but that's aggravating, but it's normal, and they're getting all that stuff cleared up. And we're going to have a really awesome facility.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
So really encourage y'all to come down.
On July 9th?
July 9th at 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m.
It's on a Thursday.
I will comment that our sheriff looks really good on television.
Yeah, it's on Channel 6.
On
Really?
Channel 6.
Oh, yeah. That's the fitness room we put in the Ronnie Jones fitness room.
Ronnie Jones Fitness Center.
Has substituted his jacuzzi.
I will remind everybody, we are streaming live.
That was a joke.
Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for coming in, and this is really exciting news, so we appreciate it. Agenda item number 13, expo request from AgriLife Extension Office for the 2020 B County 4-H banquet.
Move to approve, Wally. You have anything else to tell us on that?
We have, while Wally's getting up there, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Let Wally speak. Should say Mr. Rodriguez, sorry.
Good morning, Wally Rodriguez, the County Assistant Promotional Director. We've got, item number 13 is from AgriLife. They are requesting, I'm not sure, we talked a little bit about over the phone, what their options were. So I'm not sure on the paperwork if they requested a, discounted amount or a waiver of the fee. But I made them aware of what the options were, and so we wanted to bring that forward to you guys.
I think we normally waive the fee, that would be the motion to waive the fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a deposit there already.
Absolutely. So, that's my motion, is to accept this and waive the fee.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 14, expo request for discounted rate from B County Farm Bureau for annual Ag Day on November 4, 2020. I was wondering why you were just standing up there. Please proceed, Mr. Rodriguez.
B County Farm Bureau, has an Ag Day. I think it's a great thing they do with children as well, considering the event and that it benefits, the children of B County. I do recommend that we move forward with that request as well.
With the discounted fee.
I make a motion to, handle the discounted rate for the, group.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I do want to comment on one thing, and it's on Wally. Since we brought Wally on board, this Coliseum has just become the greatest place for everybody to come to. And it's because of what him and the maintenance staff and everything do. So, my hat's off to Wally and what he does for this county. Because in the past, we haven't been this fortunate.
No, I will totally second what Commissioner Hager's saying about Mr. Rodriguez. You've done a fantastic job, sir. Always with a smile and confidence, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well said on all sides. Thank you, gentlemen. Did we vote?
Nope.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 15, set the public hearing date pursuant to Texas Transportation Code, Chapter 253, entitled County Improvement of Subdivision Roads, Vernon, 2003, to consider placement of speed limit sign for 30 miles per hour on Deborah Pettis Lane, Henry Lane, Kingery Lane, Benito Road, Salazar Road, and Garcia Road in B County, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Salazar?
Yes, sir, that's my item on the agenda. It was brought to my attention, by some constituents that live in those areas that they're really, really wanting street signs because of traffic that goes by there kind of fast. So speaking to Ray Gonzalez, he agreed that, we should put some traffic signs, speed limit signs. So these are the roads that are being considered. And obviously, the first step is to have a public hearing. I'd like to make a motion that we set a public hearing for July 13th, which will be our first meeting in July at 10 a.m.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you for bringing this to us, Commissioner Salazar. Agenda item number 16, drainage issues on CR 631 in B County.
Yeah, this is mine. Actually, most of it was discussed before. Mr. Gonzalez, and talking right after the break here, has a meeting with, landowners around there, one landowner, Mr. Bulinger, and Ms. Campbell, and they're going to, look at the 622 road. He's also got a couple of other ones he's looking at. Let me emphasize with the wind farm, we're meeting with Rich Saunders. They've agreed to look at our culverts and extend our culverts and make them larger also to help with the drainage. So, and raise instrumental on that part there. Again, that falls under my also part where, I'm gonna meet with TxDOT because I need to do something with the roads after talking to Mr. Uliger out here in the hallway. I've gotten a little more information. So it's basically to have it on record that these are the items that we're gonna address as in my precinct. And so, it's more or less just a discussion. Action is, I'll move forward, I'll make a motion to move forward with all the recommendations that are being given to me on this road.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 17, declare items as non-functionable, salvageable, and approved to dispose of this property accordingly.
Move to approve the items that have been listed.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Agenda item number 18, authorize Elections Administration Office with assistance from IT Director to enter into an agreement with Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center, EISAC, to participate in the Endpoint Detection and Response Pilot Program for elections. That is certainly a mouthful. Ms. Warnick, do you have something to clarify for us on this?
Yes, sir. We were contacted by ISAC, is what the infrastructure is called. We have an opportunity to participate in this pilot program at no cost to the county that would give us 19 endpoints. I think it's 19, I'm pretty sure it's 19. Well, they'll come in, set everything up for us. They identify, what this does is it identifies and blocks malicious activity. It quarantines suspicious files, isolates compromised systems, remediates malware infections, and enables additional analysis to find and migrate threats. And it's on election equipment or anything that endpoints, like would be our desktop, anything to do with elections. It's just a security measure to do that. And I put this on the agenda because, as you can see, this contract's quite expensive. I'm not a lawyer, so I wanted somebody else to read through this and make sure that we were okay on it.
You did say no cost to the county.
It is no cost to the county. It's
That's the most important part.
Andy has no comment.
You
So I'll make a motion.
I led with that. It's just a pilot program, and it's just to help us see how strong our endpoint is. And since we're gonna be, moving the elections office to its own section of the server with firewalls and stuff, I think it's a good opportunity for just to continue to strengthen.
Thank you, Ms. Warnick. Subject is, if anybody says so moved to make a motion, I
So
would.
moved.
I'll make a motion after careful consideration of the contract.
Thank you. Yeah, just give me an opportunity.
I'll second it.
to review it. Thank you, sir. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 19, county health plan renewal between D County and the Texas Association of Counties.
I think this is housekeeping, and I'll second.
Well,
Whoa.
well, it is, but, it is going up 5%. I don't know if Hyman wants to.
Further discussion? Comment? Sorry, Mr. Castillo.
No, that's okay. Y'all were gonna go through it, that's great. I'm Castillo, HR Director. Yeah, basically, the insurance committee met every year. We get our insurance numbers. This went up 5%. The insurances just go up every year, so. They give us options. One of the options is we can absorb the increase, that 5% increase, and keep everything the same. As you know, the employees pay a portion for their dependents, and the insurance committee kind of left everything for that. Now it's presented to the court to see that's going to be.
We absorbed it last year, didn't
Yes,
We've
Yes,
been absorbing the employees.
And it was
for
7%
years.
last year. This year, the annual increase is gonna cost, $102,420 to our budget. We have already made those increases in the budget, so when we come in on Wednesday for our hearings, you're gonna already see it. I talked with the judge about that, and we just thought that that would be the best way to go. Of course, if y'all decide differently here today, then we can make those changes. That's not a
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept the 5% increase and approve plan renewal.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Thank you, Mr. Cantu. Agenda item number 20, annual software hardware maintenance agreement for the net data server between B County and Net Data.
Just annual housekeeping.
No increases, nothing else?
Not my knowledge.
Okay. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. This went very well. I appreciate it. We have no executive session items. We move on to agenda item number 21, a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn,
Oh, okay.
I wanna,
Well, don't second me.
Candy, we can make sure that Commissioner DeWitt gets the memo. Look at Judge, look at Commissioner Padilla, look at Commissioner Hager, and myself, blue shirts.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Well, wait.
It's
The email was down.
The email Friday.
Yeah.